The Pittsburgh Penguins called it a hard-fought point. They'd go 7 rounds in the shootout against the New Jersey Devils, eventually losing 3-2 here at PPG Paints Arena. I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now YouTube channel. For the 5th time in 6 shootouts, the Penguins lose. But you really don't analyze shootouts. We're going to talk about the locker room. We're going to talk about the first couple of periods, the third period, and everyone on the inside's reaction. That's how we're going to attack this little postgame. Also, it's freezing in here. I should be wearing a coat. Let's start with this. The Penguins sprang to life in the third period. What they did differently than the first 2 periods was very simple. They held on to the puck. In the first couple of periods, I don't know if you noticed how many times they tried to make, a backhand pass off the wall into the slot. How many times they skated into the teeth of the New Jersey defense, which is fast enough to get back, to pack the zone, get between the dots, and take away that ice. The Penguins kept trying it and trying it. They didn't take it down low in the zone and hold the puck, force the Devils. Let's face it, the Devils have offensive defensemen, force them to come down below the goal line, to play in the muck and the mire with the Penguins. They didn't do that until the third period. Look at the change in results. The energy shifted almost immediately. It never really opened up the low to high game quite like they've had over the last couple of games against some weaker opponents. That's fine. Get the puck to the net then. Once you have the team, the zone unpacked, so to speak, you can get the puck to the net. And that's what happened. Anthony Beauvillier creates a loose puck on the forecheck. Side note, Beauvillier had one of his best games of the season. He had himself a game. He was flying. He was on every single puck. He was, playing with his best hands and his best feet. He creates a loose puck. Goes around the wall. P.O. Joseph pinches in, takes it down low, behind the net. He holds on to the puck until the pass was there. Slips a perfect pass to Kevin Hayes, who snaps it past New Jersey goalie Nico Daws. The Penguins' comeback from 2-0 is now complete. One thing to note here, what aided the Penguins' comeback, if not fueled it entirely, Alex Nedeljkovic, the Penguins goaltender. Yeah, he allowed a couple of goals in the first couple of periods, but my goodness, even though he faced only 21 shots, spectacular. I won't hesitate to use that word. A couple of the saves he made on Jack Hughes in overtime, getting the toe out with 25 seconds to go. Stopping Jack Hughes on a breakaway with 2 seconds to go in overtime. I mean, come on. At that point, you assume the game is over. I'm sure the Penguins bench was just beside themselves. How could we give up a breakaway from a scoring chance so close and so far? Nedeljkovic held his ground, held, makes the paw save, and the Penguins get to a shootout. So we've talked about holding on to the puck, and we've talked about what they did well in the third period. I'm not sure I get a little bit of, when I try to talk with Sidney Crosby, I feel like sometimes I zig and he's zagging, or he's zagging and I feel like I'm not always on the same page with what he's thinking about the game. Maybe we see it quite a bit differently. I thought the Penguins were very timid or overly cautious or buttoned up or just not inspired in the first 40 minutes. That was my take on it. In the first 17 minutes of the game, the shots were 4-3. The Penguins had possession of the puck, but they weren't doing the good things with it. Even in the second period, a lot of perimeter shots. If they, weren't shoveling the puck into the middle of the ice and, turnovers and so on and so forth. By the way, Michael Bunting, 5 turnovers in the first period, 1 in the second. He also sprang to life in the third period. But that was, I thought, endemic of the Penguins' flaws in the first 40 minutes. that they didn't do anything with their possession. Sid kind of laid it on the the special teams. The game was choppy, and he thought they did a lot of good things. Mike Sullivan also lauded his team's effort. A lot to like, hard-fought point. I thought it was because they played so well in the third period, and they played professionally in the first couple of periods. And Sid said, sometimes that's the way it goes. You get better as the game goes on, and I would certainly agree with that. The Penguins, unfortunately for them, have given away their margin of error. They don't have the opportunity against a division rival with a few games to go before this Four Nations break. They don't have the opportunity to come out and play workman professional hockey. They have to bring their A game here the next couple in New York, in Philadelphia, before the 2-week Four Nations break. And I promise you, if the Penguins lose either of these games, it's going to be a near fatal blow to their playoff hopes, if that hasn't already happened. The math works out like this. The Penguins, before Tuesday night, needed 77% of the remaining points to get to 95 points. They needed a very Jaromir Jagr-like 68% of their points just to get to 90. Yeah, they've punted their margin for error. So from that standpoint, I'm kind of, maybe I'm on the outside. I'm a little less forgiving. Maybe I'm being a little bit nitpicky. I thought the Penguins had opportunity in the first period that they didn't seize. They didn't energetically grab. It happens, of course, but you want to see that sort of that urgency. All right, so Alex Nedeljkovic makes the big saves. Here's what Nedeljkovic is. I kind of wanted to pull him aside Tuesday night. I didn't, but my reaction almost was to pull him aside and say, dude, you don't need to take the blame for this one. Relax. He chided himself for being, quite frankly, he said, not very good in shootouts. Listen, it went 7 rounds. The Penguins had several opportunities to win the shootout. Yeah, he gave up 3 goals in 7 rounds. Okay. The Penguins are allowed to score 3, too. This wasn't on the goaltender. I thought the goaltender got them to that point. It was more incumbent upon the Penguins. They weren't facing Marty Brodeur. That was Nico Dawes, that they were stuffing it into his crest, bouncing it off his pads. So it goes, right? All right, so to beat the weather out of Pittsburgh, that's my excuse anyway, I am taking a train to New York City on Wednesday. I'm actually going a full 48 hours before the game. It's a tough life. If I'm being honest, I use the weather as an excuse. I'm looking forward to going to New York and just, at least spending an afternoon by myself with nothing to do. Hopefully, you think I've earned that. If you don't think I've earned it, I don't care. So we'll be in New York. The Penguins have the Rangers on Friday. We take the train to Philly Saturday, and then the break. Can't overstate the importance of the next 2 games for the Penguins. So, win both, you start to wonder if we prematurely wrote them off. If they don't win both, 4 points. They had 1 point to give in these final 3 games. They needed at least 5 of 6. Well, they gave away the point on Tuesday. Now they have to beat the Rangers and the Flyers because those are the wild card teams. They can't even go to overtime. They can't give away points to Philly and the Rangers. Just can't do it because they need to take those points away from those teams ahead of them in the standings. So we'll tee it up in New York. If you're heading to the game, drop me a line and I'll send you some hidden restaurant recommendations. Maybe you can do the same. All right, from PPG Paints Arena, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now YouTube platform.